Hello. Two games played at 3 p.m. in the United Kingdom, the Premier League on Saturday, and here to discuss them both, myself alongside Janusz Mihalik, and two very comfortable wins. We will deal with Manchester United and Sunderland shortly, but let's start, Janusz, with Arsenal going top of the table. This was as routine a victory as you would likely ever see, and it could easily have been more. What did we learn today from this Arsenal performance that took them, for the time being, to the Premier League summit?
I don't know if I just learned it today, but I think we're looking, we're watching the best team in the Premier League right now. So, this is a team that, I don't know, gave Liverpool or the league couple mulligans. I mean, no shame on them. The points they've lost was against Liverpool, right, with that great screamer from Szoboszlai in a game that they shouldn't lose. They should have gotten something. Was even played Manchester City off the pitch. That's another points dropped. No shame in that. Obviously, you play, top teams playing against top teams, but I think in the meantime, when you look at the way they dealt with the game with West Ham, it's a London derby, you wouldn't know it, right? I mean, total domination without breaking a sweat.
Yeah, it was two going on, goodness knows how many for Arsenal. They took their time to open the scoring, but that doesn't mean they didn't create a lot before they eventually got the opening goal. But prior to that opening goal, Martin Odegaard, twice he went down after colliding knees. I think it was with Crescencio Somerville. And he tried to play on, and then ultimately he couldn't. Now, if that's just a one-off, then you hope he gets better soon. But the fact that that's 3 consecutive games in a row for Arsenal that he's had to be replaced in the first half, should this be depending on the severity and if it's something he's been dealing with that's similar to the ones in the past, should this be a case of, look, next time he comes back, make sure he is totally 100% ready?
Yeah, I think he was totally 100% ready though in this one. A great thing. He got injured while making a great tackle, great defensive play on Somerville, by the way, which is good at. The bad news, I mean, we saw Odegaard at his best. Before the injury last season, when he was outstanding, and remember for the rest of the season, they struggled without him. There's no questions about that. You saw. Consequently, that even in today's game, I mean, Saka, who's dealing with some injuries over the time, back at his best. There's no coincidence, right? These two are getting reacquainted. So, yes, you never know what that's going to be. I suppose good news is there's international break. Maybe it's just a knock. Is that bad news? Of course it is. But then again, you look at what happened when Zubimendi comes in, right? A wonderful through ball to Eze on the first goal, right? That Declan Rice ultimately scored. So they have players that can come in. But let's not forget that I think in the game against Newcastle, for me, when he came into that game, Odegaard, that is, the game changed. They found a winner late. He was the best player on the pitch against Olympiacos. And today, the start of the game was wonderful, not just for Odegaard, but as I mentioned, for that partnership with Saka and everybody else. So, yes, you worry. Yes, you want him at his best. I thought he was just coming in finally to his best. It's a different type of injury. But yeah, I mean, he's going to be super important if Arsenal are to win the Premier League.
Yeah, you mentioned that squad depth for Arsenal, and that's something that's crucial because we've spoken a lot about needing a striker. They went and got a striker. They went and got Zubimendi. Calafiori's doing well on the left-hand side. Saka's back from injury. Timber, obviously what happened to him last season when he picked up that injury early doors and missed big chunks. There's a lot of relationships developing now, whether it's Timber and now Saka down the right-hand side. Let's take a look at the opening goal. The effort is a decent one by Eberechi Eze, and it's a good follow-up. Whether or not Declan Rice is in that position or a little bit deeper if Odegaard is still on the field of play, we'll never know, but he takes it very well. And it's kind of similar because Eze's got a chance, 10, 15 minutes before that it came to him a lot quicker, but he couldn't adjust his body and he fired over. But I thought Declan Rice's body shape was absolutely perfect for the opening goal.
Yeah, it was. And as I mentioned, I mean, Zubimendi, one of his few first touches, I didn't count him, but I mean, got on the pitch and a perfectly weighted ball. I mean, you can't overlook that pass, right? Especially when you have somebody like Odegaard leaving, right? Yeah. So that was good. Yeah, as it had a sitter, he should have scored, early on and opened the scoring. Perhaps, it wasn't a good game for him. I don't want to say the worst player, but, obviously he's going to have to readjust. And Declan Rice against his former team, obviously, there are no question marks about Declan Rice. Steady Eddie as they come anywhere in the world, and always puts in a performance. So, that finish seemed easy. It kind of never is, right? From that distance. It's superb. It's almost everything's perfect, right? With the exception of maybe, you say still Jokic. I know he's got the three goals in the Premier League, and that's not bad, right? When you come over and you're trying to adjust, but still, to me, he looks cumbersome. I still don't see that explosiveness, that we saw at Sporting Lisbon, the ability to run behind, the ability to run at players. Obviously, the work ethic is great and all of that. But, when we talk about number nines and best strikers in the world that are playing for, one of the best teams in the world, you don't really want to talk about defensive ability. So it's not bad. Again, 3 goals in the Premier League, fair play. And maybe he's still developing, getting used to the. But that's one area that I'm still not convinced when it comes to Jokic.
Is Jokic trying too hard?
I don't know if it's, it's an intricate game when you come into Arsenal. We've talked about these partnerships, right? On the right-hand side, when everybody's available, that's easy. I think he's going to get lots of top-ins, right? If Odegaard and Saka work, then Jokic is going to work, because what do? They combine on the right-hand side. Saka usually gets played into the byline and gets the ball crossed back, right? Or does it himself, and so that's good. On the left-hand side, we've seen Martinelli starting to look much, much better. Trossard does his thing when he comes in or from the start. So I think it can develop. It's an intricate game and not an easy one at Arsenal, I suppose.
The reason I ask, he'll always put a shift in, Jokic, and it was near the end of the game. He's made a run down the left. It's a brilliant run. He's taken the touch. He's got beyond the defender, and he's cut it back, and there's nobody there. And you kind of just... You don't want him to kind of settle down a little bit and kind of not give the same as he's giving. I think you've summed it up well. Maybe he's just a confidence player. Maybe he's just trying too hard to fit in right now, whereas things might just come to him once things start to click. And he might end up just being the penalty box player that gets 10, 15 goals a season by not doing much more than that.
I think that's going to be his game, because 90% of the games that Arsenal are going to play are going to be against teams that are going to defend deep. And at Sporting, he wasn't like that. He had room, right? On breaks. I want to see, because there's going to be those few games, whatever percentage of the games, where Arsenal will play on the break, and that's where you're going to probably see Jokic at his best. So it's not an easy one. I think he's got to be patient. I think he's got to move less, sit in front of that goal, 6 yard back, 6 to 8 to 10 yards, and wait for the wingers to cut the ball back and put them away. Those chances are going to come, and when they come, he's going to have to be clinical. Otherwise, there's going to be no place for him.
I think the only doubt about the penalty was whether or not it was inside or outside the box. Only a hold can constitute a continuation.
That's what I thought. You spot on, Mark.
Yeah, it's one of these. Is there enough evidence? Because if it's on the line, it's considered inside. Is there enough evidence to overturn following the challenge? It's a foul on Timber.
Yes, there is. That's a foul before not inside the penalty area. That shouldn't have been a penalty. Having said that, the handball. Remember, Mavropanos. To me, that's a penalty from that distance. This wasn't close. He was kind of sideways. I don't know if that was a natural way of approaching that. You may have to take a look at it again, right? Because it's hard to explain. But that, to me, that handball was more of a penalty. This one, for me, it wasn't. It doesn't change anything, because Arsenal would have found a way, I suppose. And, very few questions about them, with the exception of maybe, I still have some about Mikel Arteta from, but that's a hard job.
Yes, we've heard those before. So Saka scores the goal. 100 goal involvements for Arsenal in the Premier League, which is phenomenal. What's the difference between Arsenal with Saka playing coming in from the right and Arsenal when Saka's unavailable?
Because simply, he's got so many ways of being. Defenders are afraid of him. I've been a defender myself, and there's always few players where where, he's got the ability to do everything, and I was playing as a left fullback, so I would have been on his side. And, he can take you to the end line on the right side, he can come inside, he can dribble past you. So it's those players that can beat you on the spot, because he doesn't need a lot of space, right? He's quick enough. And obviously, if you give him space, then forget it. If you don't have the pace, you're not going to be able to keep up with him. But now I think, his arsenal, no pun intended, or pun intended, I guess, his arsenal and variety, I suppose, of what he can do is such that for a defender, unless you get help, very few in the world can take Saka one-on-one and say that you're going to win that. And remember, because as a defender, I can tell you that sometimes you can have a superb game, incredible game for 85 minutes, 89 minutes, right? But all it takes is that you get beaten once in a game by somebody like Saka, and then all of a sudden everybody's looking at you and saying, well, he didn't mark him. So it's you need a lot of help, and that's what Saka is. I mean, I often use this. I don't know if it's a complete player, but as close as it comes for a winger in that position. Not many out there that would would take over him.
Manchester City is the only domestic team that's taken something from the Emirates. So you can't really judge West Ham on going to Arsenal and make assertions and assumptions based on that. But they've only won one of their previous 6 if you don't. And I think you and I both like to talk football. I think you and I could still be speaking after Chelsea-Liverpool about this game, and West Ham probably still wouldn't have scored. How worried are you about West Ham and staying up? Because that's 19th in the Premier League. Or is it far too early for Nuno Espirito Santo and his West Ham project to be judged?
Yeah, very worried. Yeah, of course, I'm not going to judge Nuno in this one because it's too early. I don't see any changes yet, to be quite honest. West Ham as a club baffles me. I see no difference. They want to be a big club, right? But if you want to be a big club, you gotta play football. You got to try to play football, and they haven't done it on the Potter, in my opinion. And here, I mean, they just came in and defended deep, and there was, almost nothing that they've offered. Even a player like Jared Bowen, who's the only one that you can kind of single out as one that performs all the time and often saves this team. I didn't see him today. I didn't look at his stats, didn't have time, and what he did or didn't do, but nobody did anything. So yes, it worries me a lot. But as you said, Nuno just got there, and I suppose he's also pragmatic. He's shown at Wolves that he's capable of. But if you want West Ham to go to the next level, it makes you wonder if Nuno is this sort of he should at Wolves, he showed at Forest, right? But at Spurs, kind of so it makes you wonder what their objective is. It's almost kind of clear that just stop the bleeding, really.
Well, just one win in the Premier League this season. That was at Forest. Their home form, they've got to start picking up points. 3 of their next 4 in the Premier League are at home. They've got Brentford, trip to Leeds, and then after that, Newcastle and Burnley at home. If we can judge them after those 4 games and they're in a similar position, then the alarm bells really need to start sounding. So Arsenal go top for the time being, depending on what happens between Chelsea and Liverpool, with as comfortable a 2-0 win as you will likely see. Now, there was another game that finished 2-0. This game kind of finished at half-time because the second half, honestly, if I knew what the second half entailed and it was played in my backyard, I'd close the curtains. It was grim. It's all about the first half. And I thought Manchester United were good in the first half. They beat Sunderland by 2-0. What did you see that impressed you today from Manchester United? Because we would have been all over them if they hadn't have won today. So get the praise before we start talking about everything else. What did you like the most about them in that first half?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's rotation. He's mentioned that, right? Cunha didn't play, why Mason Mount? Mason Mount has shown already, right? Coming back flashes. I mean, if you're talking about some players that impress and, when he played in and out, that was Mason Mount. Today, early goal. that takes a lot of pressure off the Manchester United team and then Ruben Amorim, because we've been talking about Amorim system of play and the way he talks, right? I mean, first and foremost, the less he talks, the better it is for Manchester United, right? So today you get that goal. Ultimately you get Benjamin Šeško to score his first goal at Old Trafford. That's 2 games on the trot. So those are all positives. And in the first half, I think Sunderland knew that this is going to be a long day. So those are the positives.
Now, there's an incident. So Mason Mount scored a really good first goal, and you think, are United going to kick on from this? And yes, they do. And I thought they played really well in that first half. The incident just before halftime, we'll get to that in a second, but Šeško, he's just right place, right time. That's a proper striker's goal, isn't it? Not waiting, but being instinctive, being proactive, getting your foot in there first, flicking it home. It's a lovely second goal, first of all, by Šeško.
Yeah, I mean, because that deflection on the near post, I believe it was a Sunderland plan, right? I mean, you have to react quickly, reflexes, not always easy for a big man. But remember, you and I have talked about, we've seen him in Bundesliga. I mean, this is a big man with soft feet. I mean, there's a lot more that Benjamin Šeško can do other than what you think, because he's such a tall player that he can score in the air and one-touch finishes like this one. He's good in the build-up. As I've said, he can sometimes even take a player on. So no surprise there in a way, but it was still a difficult finish, and that's a massive positive for him, because when things don't go well, and nothing has gone well for Manchester United for the most part so far, you put a lot of money into him, and now 2 games in a row. Obviously, they lost the away game. Was it Brentford? I think that he scored last game. But this first one at Old Trafford, that's always a positive. So quick finish, quick reflexes, and hopefully he kicks on from now on.
Okay, there's 2 incidents, one just before halftime and the other in the 57th minute. The first one is it has to be given as a penalty on field, and then VAR has said, look, it's not a penalty. It's Trey Hume with a high boot. I think it's on Šeško. Now, you can give an indirect free kick inside the box for dangerous play if there's no contact, but the referee has given the penalty to start with. Stuart Atwell, who's come in for a fair bit of criticism from many people over the years. It's clear it's never a penalty in a million years, and VAR's tidied that one up. So what was your take on this? It sounds like I'm just leading the witness there.
Yeah, it was perfect in all parts. I mean, look, I can see. I don't remember the exact positioning of the referee, but I could see how he missed the fact that Hume, his arm was there and he actually kicked his arm, right? I mean, you see that foot fairly high, so I can see a referee thinking, if he wasn't in a perfect position, again, I don't remember exactly where he was. I could see a referee making an assumption like this, that there was contact with the head of the opposite player. So okay. An honest mistake, I suppose, if you're on the field and in real time, but then the VAR goes in and makes the right decision. So I have no problem with any of it.
Okay. The second one in the 57th minute. Lamens, who started today in goal for Manchester United, as Amorim made a change in his 50th game in charge, came way out of his area. Referee Stuart Atwell has decided that it's simulation by Traore, and he's cautioned him for diving, basically. There's one angle that looks like there's definitely contact. What did you make of this decision?
It was right decision, except there was contact, but not with Lemons. It was with Bruno Fernandes, the way I saw it. So, I mean, yeah, at first you see, Lemons that comes in. He didn't really have anything to do. He had one strike from Xhaka, I believe, in the first half, right towards the end. Bit sloppy with his feet, but okay, he just got in there. New team, new country, new league, and all of that stuff. Didn't look good, right? He'd gone fishing anyway to begin with. So if you're just gonna look at him, what he did or didn't do, he got lucky there, and thank God he didn't touch him there. But I think Bruno did.
Okay, the rest of the half wasn't worth talking about, so we won't waste your time. Bigger picture here.
We should, because the negative was about, we talked about the positives of Manchester United, but negative was, I mean, this was an opportunity, right? I didn't see anything special. I mean, this was, an early goal, 2-0. you think that in the second half they're just going to go after it, right? I mean, this is what they need. They need a game where they win 4 or 5 or 6-0. And Sunderland didn't look like they were going to do anything in the first half. And in fact, Manchester United kind of allowed Sunderland back in the game, right? I mean, there was a chance in the end, as we know. I think it was Talby, but they had a couple half chances here and there. But they almost encouraged Sunderland back in the game. So that's a negative, because this win does a lot for Ruben Amorim and Manchester United, as we said. I mean, you look at the table, you think that Manchester United have decent the level of Manchester City, aren't they? And if you look at the points,
10 points.
They're not that far away. So you think, hey, maybe it's not all that bad. But in fact, that second half worried me a little bit, because you are at Old Trafford. You are again, playing against Sunderland. Okay. I'll start talking about them a little bit. Not bad, but this is a team that, it's not going to score that many goals. I mean, they've got 7. They're going to continue to struggle. Struggle. It looks good where they are. The start of the season is not bad, but that there's going to be some difficult times for Sunderland as the season develops. So, I was disappointed in the second half, because this was a rare opportunity for Old Trafford to roar and Manchester United to roar, where they go on and win 4 or 5-0 in a game like this.
Look, I wasn't finished with Manchester United. I was just finished with incidents in the game, because there weren't any. And I totally take your point in what you're saying. And I think you're right in that as well. There's still that fragility about Manchester United. There's still that, if we put too many bodies forward, we might concede some possession, or concede a chance, or even, God forbid, concede a goal. And then what's the crowd going to be like? So I understand the caution for that. The point I was going to make here, Janusz, is we've seen this movie before. We've seen this under pressure. Manchester United boss needs result, gets result in the nick of time, but ultimately it's wallpapering over the cracks. So we need to see, for me, we need to see a bigger sample size here. Beating Sunderland at home, that's not going to have them dancing all night in the bars at the Stretford end, the Manchester United fans. This is about, okay, you've beaten Sunderland at home. You go to Liverpool next, right? And that's very, very difficult. Yeah, you can only beat what's in front of you. Yeah, they could have maybe got more goals. But could this be, is that the worry, that this is the one game that kind of just takes the pressure off a little bit, the manager, before the pressure continues?
No, of course. Yeah. But as you said, Liverpool is going to be the acid test. And Manchester United, even at their worst last season, and, they've given Liverpool games, right? And they've gotten results. They've gotten results against a number of top teams, even though, the rest of the season was horrible. So, you can get up for that. And, if you don't get up for Liverpool, if you Manchester United, that's obvious. But I still worry about this team and Amorim, because, let's forget about the systems as he wants us to forget. Okay, fair play. But I still don't think that Amorim is getting the best out of his players. There's lots of talk from him, but I don't see it, right? He's got the time to train. He's complaining about that in Europe, last year, in the season last year, but he's got the time, another week of working with the players uninterrupted. So I don't see it. You tell me which players have gotten so much better, right? Even somebody like Mbomo, okay, but not there yet. Šeško scoring a couple goals, okay, fair play. Cunha, I haven't seen it. Dorgu's one player, that I think that's been okay throughout the season. Today, I suppose rotation, because, Dalot's never going to convince me. Luke Shaw, come on, nothing there. De Ligt, okay, another player that's been probably the best defender, if not one of the best players. Everything else is the same old story. I haven't seen any of the players individually and as a whole getting much better. So that to me is a big worry.
Yeah. The litmus test is probably the results before the international break. Manchester United right now have got 1 point from 3 games on their travels. That was at Fulham. 3 of their next 4 are away from home. They go to Liverpool. They've got Brighton at home, which won't be easy. They go to Forest and they go to Spurs. So let's reconvene and discuss how Manchester United are getting on when the November international break comes, middle of next month. But you know what? Not criticizing them today. They could have scored more in the first half. Thought they were really good. They won by 2-0. And for now, They're level on points with Manchester City. But we have new leaders as we speak, with Arsenal 2-0 winners over an insipid West Ham at the Emirates. Join Yanis and myself immediately following the game that's about to kick off, Chelsea against Liverpool, for our reaction to what's happened at Stamford Bridge. Bye for now.